Yes. Okay. So, hi, and welcome to today's session. My name is Michael Isaac. I will talk a little bit about who we are, Syntheta, and I would like to present also the speaker for today. So, this is Syntheta Group. As a mission for Syntheta Group, we always work with assisting companies to embrace the era of the cutting edge technologies such as AI, computer vision, and data. As a company, we are built on, or as a company, Syntheta is built on ethical awareness, which is important for us, and welcoming and collaboration company. You can always follow us on LinkedIn, and this will also be recorded and put into YouTube. So I want to welcome Dr. Yeris, and also I found out that Dr. Franz will also join the talk. Researcher and engineer at BTH, Dr. Yeris and Dr. Franz. The seminar will talk a little bit about how organization can continuously improve the effectiveness and efficiency of software engineering, as software is continuously becoming large and complex. So by taking steps forward as an organization, the data-driven process improvement and smart adaptation of automation of automation is an important thing for the organization. So by this, I want to welcome and introduce welcome Dr. Eriks to start his talk. Yes.
Thank you, Michael. Our pleasure to be here. So I have prepared a few slides. I hope it works properly. So can you see this well? If not, then let me know. To start off, I want to kind of continue what Michael said. Everyone wants to get better at delivering software. And it's partly because software is becoming part of nearly every product in one way or another, either as part of the product or critically required for manufacturing it, for logistics, back office functions, and so on. At the same time, software gets bigger, more complex. The organization's building this software gets bigger and more complex. Customers wish for more exciting features, and this requires some to improve the ways how software is created. And a bit of kind of a backstory is that initially there was a plan-driven software delivery with this key idea that you can plan the software project from the beginning to the end, and then deliver all the value at some point in the future. The drawback was that this approach is very inflexible, and if there is an issue somewhere in the planning, then it might take years to discover it, and well, it might kind of hinder the entire project. Sometimes around the turn of millennia came Agile with a more flexible approach to deliver value in chunks every few weeks in sprints. It was a huge improvement in flexibility. However, Agile relies on flexible collaboration and a customer in the room. This works well for small teams when you can indeed invite the customer in the room, but try scaling this up for thousands of developers and millions of customers, then this doesn't really scale well. From there comes the idea of continuous engineering, or I would say it's an extreme version of Agile, where every code, this is the idea that every code change is released as quickly as it's completed, and there's a series of automated steps to integrate that change, test that change, bundle it together into something that can be released. The change is shipped to customers, and immediately the company can monitor how the customer behavior changes and use that as a signal to inform the next planning cycle. And this continuous engineering relies on automation, telemetry, and frequent customer feedback. So we started this research a few years ago, and the big question was, of course, what is continuous engineering? What are its parts? And we created like a model, like ideal model of continuous engineering. But before I go any further, I was hoping to have a discussion and interaction. So if you have any remarks, questions, do you agree with something or disagree, then please try speaking up. I hope it works that way. Anyway, for continuous engineering, we need to consider 4 levels or 4 separate domains. Level 1 is engineering. This is where code production happens. This is where code gets written, tested, integrated, and so on. The level 2 is product. This is where product planning and resource planning take place. Underneath that, we have operations level. This is where the software is operated and made available to customers. And at the very bottom, we have end user customer domain, where the customers live and use the software and benefit somehow from it. These might be part of the same organization or 4 different organizations. That doesn't really change much. It's important that these are separate things, and even within the same organization, typically a boundary between, for example, end user and engineering exists. The boundaries are important. And the whole continuous engineering cycle starts at the product planning, where the organization makes plans what to build, basically. From there, these plans get delivered to engineering, where engineers use a series of tools and to build whatever is planned to build. For continuous engineering, there's an emphasis of automation and tooling and interconnected tools that create a pipeline that automates many of the steps. However, that is not the critical part, at least to my understanding. The critical thing is that everything happens smoothly. Automation, of course, helps, but it's not required. So once the engineers have done their job, the software gets delivered back to product managers, kind of internal deployment. And then in the spirit of continuous engineering, this new update should be automatically delivered to operations. That makes it available to customers. And from there, customers start using the software. And when they use the software, they start providing feedback or telemetry. When I say feedback and telemetry, it can be anything from angry tweets on Twitter to analytics of how customers interact with the product and everything in between. And all that then is used to monitor the product and inform the next planning cycle. As customers use the product, they kind of build a trust with the vendor, with the software, that then incentivizes further use and further sharing of feedback. On top of all this, there are a number of cross-cutting concerns that don't really belong to any particular step, but belong to all the steps at once. For example, security, compliance, verification, resources planning, experimentation, improvement, and so on. Regarding terminology, there are a bunch of other terms that I have seen in the literature, such as BizDev, which describes interaction between business and engineers, to become more efficient at figuring out what and how to build, and involving engineers in the business decisions as well. There's CI and CD parts. This is what is typically understood with CI/CD, the engineering part and rapid delivery of software to customers. There's DevOps, which aims to bring closer together engineers and operations. But overall, there's a need kind of to have a full cycle. It's not just pushing software out, it's also getting data back in. So when we created this diagram, and this is kind of an ideal model based on what the literature says about continuous engineering, we took this model to our partner companies and used this to facilitate discussion on, okay, which parts of this full cycle they found most useful, most interesting, or challenging, and also which parts they find irrelevant or impossible for some reason. And what we found is that all of the companies we talked to reported that they have started their CI/CD efforts at the engineering department. Firstly, engineers love, well, they're to some extent lazy and love automating boring things. And also often continuous engineering is treated as an engineering problem. So the engineers get a task to implement it. So of course they automate things around them. And this is it's not the easy part, but this is the part that gets done first, and usually brings immediate benefits in terms of improved quality, more test automation, use of Docker and containers, and so on. And engineers report good results. However, when it comes to actually shipping software to customers, it becomes more difficult. For example, we worked with Ericsson on this, and a lot of their software is regulated, and they have very strict service level agreements on when they deliver, how they deliver, and how the QA is done. And there's no way that one big company would allow other big company to change the software at any moment without upfront planning. Also, especially in business-to-business domains, the software product is part of a bigger ecosystem of products that together form a solution. And like we had this case where one company ships software to another, and the other company builds something on top to integrate the software update into their systems, and that takes time and takes upfront planning. So delivering automatically sounds nice, but in practice we see it's way more challenging, and especially because this happens at the sales, marketing, and business model level. And while automating a few tests is an engineering task and it's usually doable, convincing customers to accept a different business model, different monetization model, and convince managers that this is a good idea, it's a very different type of challenge. What we also saw is that these parts here are, well, of course, they happen. Customers somehow use the software and companies gather feedback from the customers, but these are least addressed in the big picture of CI/CD. So there's a lot of potential to, well, streamline the use of software and streamline the collection of feedback and the use of feedback in product planning. And an example is that there's a car company that we worked with, and they have test cars driving around and kind of to see how the new car behaves and on the road. And each car collects a petabyte of data per day. And they really don't have any idea how to use this data efficiently to improve the car in any meaningful way. So when it comes to making decisions, an engineer sits together with the test driver and drives around in the city or a track, and then makes some adjustments and then drive again. So collecting data is one thing, but actually making sure it's useful, it's a completely different thing. And all these insights led us to several research streams at BTH. This is a quick summary. This doesn't have to be like a definitive list of everything we do, but this is to give you an idea what we are working on. First, we look at adoption blueprints. And the idea is that CI/CD as a concept is nice, but every organization is a bit different and requires different flavor of CI/CD, especially around trade-offs and organizational changes. So, and as we work with already established organizations with products and customers and successful business models, it becomes kind of a balancing act of trade-offs. So we can throw away a quite successful business model and adopt something different in hopes that it's better, but of course it's risky and hard sell to managers. So we look into how to adopt CI/CD step by step without disrupting that already works and improving to things that are proven to work. One of the partner companies described this process. It's like taking a race car on the track, disassembling the engine while the car is racing and winning. So it's very easy to do something wrong and lose the leading position. So this is something companies don't take lightly. Another research stream is around measurements. So when a company decides to invest in improvements in the engineering process, that investment should lead to either improved speed, efficiency, delivery frequency, or something internal, some internal improvement, or somehow make the product better to customers. And the question is, can we measure this and use these measurements to guide the internal process improvements and the overall adoption of CI/CD ideas? And what we find, it's actually quite challenging because different companies, and even within the same company, software deliveries mean many things. There can be hot fixes, patches, big bang releases, and a combination of different organization levels have different planning horizons. For example, it was quite interesting observation. I was at lunch with both Spotify engineers and Ericsson engineers, and Ericsson said they wish to be more like Spotify and ship software more often. And the Spotify engineers said, well, we wish to be more like Ericsson and have more longer planning horizons to ship bigger updates. So it was quite entertaining to observe that discussion. But it illustrates that it's not that faster is better. You need both speed and control, and also long planning periods at the same time. So our aim is to create a framework that would allow to systematize this and observe at which level, at what specific point or activity that improvement is necessary. This is a very recent topic that we have is around feedback loops. And this is to emphasize that it's not just throwing software out from the organization or getting it out of the door. It's at the same time learning from the customers and from the market how the software should be like. And I'll let Franz to explain exactly what I mean with that.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm here, and we can advance to the next slide. Yes. First, I would like to emphasize or highlight rather two perspectives on feedback. So one perspective on feedback is if you look at the outcome of any non-trivial activity, and I think you agree that most of software engineering is a very non-trivial activity. If you have such a thing, that outcome is not certain. So you will have some deviation from what you aimed for. And feedback is necessary to take some corrective action to get closer to what you originally intended to do. So that puts the quality and outcome into the center. Another perspective is to put the actor into the center. And psychology research tells you that you need to have opportunities for many fast and high quality feedback instances to actually develop expertise, so to become an expert in what you are doing. And without these feedback opportunities, you simply cannot learn. It's much harder to learn. So these are two perspectives on why feedback is important. And we already see a very simple model of a feedback loop over here, but that model misses a couple of key elements. Next slide, thanks. So first of all, in actual feedback loops, there's usually some distance between what the actor does. So an actor can be an engineer, a team, or the whole organization. And a distance between what they do and the effect it has, the actual outcome. So that can be distance in time. So it can take weeks or even months until a code change is actually deployed and there is an outcome of that action. But it can also be distance in terms of responsibility or control. So the actor who is doing the thing is not the one who is actually deploying it. It's in a different department or even a different company. So that's one thing, that these two might be quite disconnected. Then when you have that outcome, you need to have some mechanism to make an observation or to measure something, to get information on what was going on. And there are any number of different things how such feedback can be collected. And many of these have names. So for instance, unit tests and integration tests. You might have security scans or performance benchmarks. You might have bug reports or angry phone calls from your customers. All of these are feedback mechanisms, some of which have a name and are an established practice. Others are an ad hoc invention and very context specific. And any of these feedback mechanisms produce feedback of a certain quality. So you have different types of feedback depending on the feedback mechanism that you either chose or that just happens to be there. For instance, there can be feedback that is not direct, but is mediated through someone who aggregates feedback or triages reports before they actually reach the actor. So there are different types of feedback mechanisms, and they produce feedback of different qualities. And they are different in another way because different feedback mechanisms are meant for different purposes. So there are several different sources of uncertainty which make it difficult to achieve the intended outcome on the first attempt. This might be human error, and you write unit tests for this, or you have code reviews to catch these. You have integration tests to cover any uncertainty coming from other components which your colleagues or other departments worked on, and so on. And there should be a match between the feedback mechanism that is in place and the source of uncertainty that you want to address. Certainly, your customers will tell you when the software broke, but that feedback mechanism might not be the best use of that resource. So customers will tell you about it, but that's not the type of feedback you want to have from your customers. You want to learn about the market from your customers, not that your software is broken. For this, there should be much tighter feedback loops with a different mechanism. So coming back to what Eric just explained about speed and relevance, the CI/CD practices you typically find address the top half of that feedback loop. So they help you getting faster outcome from your action. So you get the speed. But if you have the wrong or somehow inappropriate feedback mechanism, you don't have the ability to do the right thing. So you lack the information to make actual informed decisions and to adjust your actions for the next round. So a nice quote for this is, don't build faster than you can learn. So you need that learning opportunity, and the right feedback mechanism helps you with that. So what we do in companies, and what we see in companies, is that there is, of course, not one feedback loop, but many, many feedback loops that are interconnected and nested in many ways. And all of these have different properties and quality attributes, and not all of them are fit for purpose. For instance, you have organizational boundaries, which might be in the way in both directions. So both when you have the path from the change to the deployment, so action to outcome, but also on the way back, where it might be difficult or even impossible to get detailed and valuable feedback from where it actually, where the action or the outcome actually takes place. And what we see are different strategies, how the organizations and the engineers in the organizations deal with these type of constraints. For instance, they make certain trade-offs where they maybe create a simulated environment, a digital twin, if you will, which gives them less authentic but faster feedback, because they want faster feedback and they need faster feedback for their work. And the second strategy, if you will, is that there's a focus on things that can be easily automated using all the tools from the CI/CD toolbox, but at the same time missing out on closing those feedback loops which might have the highest relevance. And what we do with companies is to map out the network of the feedback loops to understand what's actually going on, which feedback loops are in place and which are missing, and are currently building a taxonomy of relevant properties to describe these feedback loops. And the idea is to then have a framework to evaluate feedback loops. So that's a tool for companies to think about what they are doing at multiple levels. As I said, actors can be individual engineers, departments, and the whole organization, and the feedback loop metaphor is able to capture all of these facets. Yeah, and if you're interested in doing something like this, we are very happy to talk to you. Back to you, Eriks.
Thank you, Franz. So to conclude, there are a number of opportunities that we see that we believe every company can take, whether they aim to become fully CI/CD with hundreds of software deliveries a day, or just wish to benefit from the ideas of continuous engineering without adopting it completely. And the very first thing that we believe every company needs to do every now and then is to make an inventory of the whole organization, of the offerings, processes, practices, organizational structures, to identify silos, identify repetitive manual processes, and so on, and sometimes adopt a new thing, a new practice to make things better, or more often stop doing something. And from that, what we see is that very often organizations lack a clear idea or a clear goal why they are trying to adopt CI/CD. I had this discussion with a company, and I asked, like, why do you want to adopt continuous engineering? Oh, we want to be more efficient. And okay, what does efficient mean for you? And I was talking to an engineer, and the engineer said, well, becoming more efficient means we can push for more feature. We can ship more features faster with the same resources. And I said, fine. And then someone from the operations side said, well, efficiency for us is when we can maintain stability and reliability of our product with minimum resources. But that goes exactly against each other. You can't have lots of new features every day and stability at the same time. So, and if an organization is like that, and there's no agreement of what efficiency, flexibility, speed, or whatever else they try to improve, what that is and what that means for everyone, kind of all the efforts are meant to fail or create a lot of friction inside. So basically, everyone from the CTO to the janitor should agree what they are trying to achieve, how to measure it, and then it becomes much easier to identify what the next action could be and whether that was successful or not. And this is continuous improvement that I think every company can at least try out. And the third important opportunity is to look for cross-cutting improvements. Because what we see that engineering alone cannot radically improve the speed of software deliveries. Of course, it's a big part of, but it's not the entire thing. As an example, I was at the workshop with one of our partners, and they said, well, it took us 2 weeks to build something, and we are very efficient in building and shipping and testing. We have automation in place. And then it took 3 months for marketing department to decide how to market this. So yes, engineering speed is important, but there are other parts as well that might need some attention and change. This concludes our formal presentation. I was told there's going to be a discussion afterwards, so
Yes.
maybe we can continue to that.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Eric, and also Franz. So let's open for some questions. Everyone that have joined online now, just if you would like to share any question or thoughts, I think you can just unmute yourself and talk. If not, yeah, let's. I have some question. Meanwhile, everyone is thinking about their own questions. So let me share my just like this. Yes. So yeah, okay. Very, very interesting, honestly. I have some question regarding, you mentioned the practice that you did with Ericsson and Spotify and also Telia Sonera. So how do you see if it is software related to hardware Ericsson has? Is it a bigger complexity than Spotify as only software? Or how do you see, is there any big difference of thinking when you have other components that maybe increase the complexity of delivering such things? Especially if you have third parties, as you mentioned also.
So we interact with the Ericsson that is primarily software, and that unit is called business support systems, which is more or less the software mobile operators use to create like customer offerings on top of the network. So when we say Ericsson, we are talking about that, not software that runs up in the masts somewhere in the country. At the same time, what we heard is that the software that runs in hardware is somewhat easier because it has less dependencies. So for like the complexity for Ericsson is that they need to kind of accomplish the impossible. They need to ship fast. They need to ship custom, or they wish to ship faster, customized software, because every operator has a slightly different setup. So it's not like they can ship a box of software and that fits everyone. They need to make configuration changes and some adaptations on the way. And they need to provide like stellar level of reliability. And that's where the complexity comes from.
Further, one more. I have several questions, but I will continue. Anyone? Just yeah, okay. There, you mentioned challenges during doing this kind of work. So the state that Ericsson had taking out the engine from a running car that is winning, which is which is the truth, honestly. I could. How will you succeed to tell them to use this, even though they have this kind of mentality of we are already the best of the best? Why should they introduce something new which is unknown for them? will take a little bit more time and maybe create more bottlenecks as they see it in the management. I see from the business side.
So I'm going to speak like generally for all the partners together. So companies that we work with they're making money. Some of them are leaders in their domains, meaning that they are winning the race. It's to some interpretation of this. At the same time, they realize that the markets are changing. Like what was fast 10 years ago is slow nowadays. Yeah. And the software only gets bigger, organizations get bigger, means that there's more overhead, and you can't work the same way anymore. And we are not even touching the AI transformation, all that is about to arrive, if already not here. So organizations kind of want to be proactive and prepare themselves for the future. But then it becomes this question: to what extent it makes sense to take that engine from the race car that's winning to replace with something probably better to keep winning in the future. So, and this is kind of an ongoing discussion between engineering and market experts and business owners. And I don't have a good answer to this, because this is well beyond engineering. This is organizational strategy. But if you ask, my personal opinion is that you don't take an engine out from a winning car. You build another car on the sidelines. And when your first cars start to lose, you bring the other car to the race.
Correct. Yeah.
Meaning, like,
that's my thought.
and this is not that far-fetched. For example, Volvo has created a sister company that deals with everything self-driving.
Yes.
So because you can't apply the same principles that you can use to build the most safe cars, traditional cars, you can't apply the same principles to build a self-driving car. You have to compromise. But if you start compromising on safety without actually delivering the full self-driving, that's a big business risk. So they have chosen this way, and I see other companies doing similar things. So they take the good parts from the old company, let the old company continue, and create a new one that might or might not succeed in the future.
Yeah. Anyone, any questions? Other one? I will continue otherwise. I have a lot of questions. So one question to you, Franz, regarding, you may know, regarding Boeing, they had this kind of accidents with their Boeing 747 or 774 airplanes. And they detected it was a software wrong in the software upload, and that made the accidents. So what do you, if you just have a view, what do you think went wrong there? Was it this loop of feedback to the engineering, or was it like, what happened? What do you think may happen?
I'm not familiar with a particular incident, I have to say. But we can we see one very important feedback loop there, which is if there is an incident, you spend lots of resources to make sure you understand what went wrong. So you and then you might along the way find out which other feedback loops failed. What we see in companies is that many of the engineers know which feedback loops should be in place, and or at least they have an opinion on that. And so that's not new information for the company as a whole, but it's but these voices and these observations should be considered to have the appropriate feedback loop for that type of uncertainty that you're dealing with. So, as I said, I'm not familiar with the Boeing case, so I cannot speak about this.
No, of course, yes.
Yeah.
It's sorry, I need to correct it. It's Boeing model 737, the aircraft. So it happened during 2020. Two of those airplanes had a big crash. So it's into, I want to reflect on the security, because this is human lives. If you go into automotive, it's the same. So if you want to like make it more effective, or this kind of engineering, because I started pretty early with the programming, and I know when you do something, you want to correct it, you always introduce new bugs. And if you are a team that is remote and everywhere, global, then it will introduce even several bugs, which is a big thing, and especially in this kind of security, safety part. How do you think about, or what's your thoughts about working in a global team, making this possible? What do you believe is a drawback when you have such processes?
Well, you just explained the processes, so or the drawbacks. If you have many people involved, there are many places where errors can be introduced, and also many opportunities for errors to be overlooked. If you think there are so many other people who might take a look, but on the other hand, there are many software engineering practices available. So the feedback mechanisms as such do exist to create software with very high quality standards. So the problem is not so much inventing new feedback mechanisms, but to employ feedback mechanisms and to make the investment to set them up and to maintain them. So every feedback loop that you have costs money. It costs time and money to set up and to maintain. And ultimately, it's a trade-off. Which do you want for the type of quality you want to achieve? And if you have software with such high stakes, you probably want to invest a lot more in your feedback loops. But you don't need to necessarily invent new feedback mechanisms. There are plenty available.
I can add to this that so I had a discussion with a Norwegian company, and they build oil fields, and it takes a couple decades to fully build an oil field. Yeah. And of course, software is coming to them as well, and they have now smart sensors and a bit of AI, but they are completely unprepared for this, because how they used to build these super critical and big and expensive oil fields is they build it once, and they make sure that it's good and it runs and it's secure and operational and all the qualities you need, and then you leave it alone for 50 years. But of course, software does not work that way. And when you want to, you want some flexibility, but when you have flexibility, you can increase the surface for, increase the probability of something going wrong and the need to correct yourself on the way. And I see this like an example with Boeing. Probably that software went through a rigorous security, reliability, and whatnot testing. But then when something went wrong on the plane, there was no mechanism to correct it. And I had this beautiful quote from one of our partners that followed exactly this process, that they had 3 months long review process before a release, which did not catch a log4j issue. You're aware of that. That was a recent thing where in the logging, log4j is a very, very popular logging library by Apache Foundation, used by pretty much everyone. And recently there was a huge security issue discovered. And this 3-month-long review process did not catch that issue. However, that process prevented the company to release a fix, which was basically an update. So and I think, and it's a broader challenge. It's also legal. Like, who is responsible if something goes wrong on a plane? Is it the one who signed off the software? Is it the one who built it? Is it who? And I'm not kind of stepping into that field, but I think there needs to be a shift in mindset of how you treat software quality. Is the quality that we can ship software, which is 99% fine, but then that 1% might turn out to be critical, or we lower the bar, but increase the bar for realizing there's an issue and fixing the issue, which comes back to the feedback loop.
Yes. Please, David, do you have a question? Yeah.
Hi, Ericsson, Franz.
Hello?
Let's see. Yes. Going on to another quote that you previously mentioned in the presentation. I just wonder if you could elaborate or re-elaborate a little bit on Charles Lamden's quote, but especially the last part. Don't build faster than you can learn. What are many companies missing out? He's the program manager at Intel. They are way more advanced than we are. They have a very big organization, but organization is one thing. And what can we learn from that quote, or what can we bring with us?
The meaning of that "don't build faster than you can learn" is it's actually a paraphrase, so it's not the full quote, I have to admit. Everything else you build, but which you cannot learn from, is waste. So you can improve your throughput and be able to ship more releases per year. But if you're not able to learn from them, or only able to learn from one of them, all the other are waste. You didn't have to go through the effort of releasing them. So that's basically one way to summarize the picture on the right, that speed alone from action to outcome is not everything you need. You also need to be able to take in the feedback and incorporate it for your next action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
So I will continue. I have a lot of questions, as I told you. So what's your view on business and business institution and the business, let's say, sections inside a company, the business side and the engineering side? What is the limitations that you have seen during your studies?
Well, the main limitation is that people don't talk to each other enough.
Yeah,
I would say, but it's well. I wish managers, I mean, like the C-level people, would be more aware of how much they depend on software. If you take, for example, IKEA, they are, or at least used to be a few years ago, the largest software producer in Sweden. But there's no software in desks and cabinets. The software is required to make sure that when you arrive home with your package, everything fits together, although the different parts are made in different parts of the world, and all that is logistics and manufacturing is profitable for IKEA. And I think it's a good example of how they can leverage software to build something and kind of use the software to full extent. And what I see for many other companies, software is like a commodity. It's not really deeply integrated in what the company do. And I think it's lost opportunity for management to actually, well, I think the management term for this is digital transformation, when you use technology to radically improve the organization. And I think there's a lot more companies could do if they would sit more together with engineers and actually make software central to their business.
yes. Franz, any comments?
That's a very nice summary by Erics. I
Yeah.
don't have anything to add.
Yeah. So I will have a last question. I was told by Carla, so I will not ask any further question. But one last question is, As you know, Eric, you have been talking to Emmanuel, and we have a product in Syntheta Group, which is called Bmetrics. And honestly, as a small startup company doing, trying to do everything from creating something innovative to release it to the customer and back again into the engineering, making it even sharper and back to release it again. There are, of course, some few things that need to be, as you highlighted here, to be viewed on and be performed even better. But the thing is, it's about time, it's about money, and this is really a hard problem as a startup company. How should you really think as a small group? Because management and engineering is one. It can be even that I'm sitting and doing things. So what I see sometimes is where we are missing the feedback is it's not from us the feedback is missing, it's from the customer. They are not taking the enough time to give us what is really happening, what's happened, and that take time in resource and take time of kind of the money spent. What's your view on that?
So I think you bring up a very important point that faster is not always better, and there are inherent delays because the customers are not giving you feedback the moment you ship the software to them. They will need some time, and it's well how humans function. They need some time to actually understand, okay, is there anything new in the software? They need to kind of ramp up and go through the learning curve and start using it and then experience it for some time. And of course, it depends from one software to the other, but it just takes calendar time. And if it takes for a customer a couple of weeks to actually understand what's being delivered and how to use it, and is this any useful, then you can't force more frequent updates to that customer, because that would just annoy the customer because they can't keep up with the new stuff.
Exactly.
And well, again, depends. Maybe if the customer is just slow in communicating or hesitates to communicate, maybe there's something you can do with telemetry, at least to know if the new feature is used or not. If you add a new button in your software, do users actually click on it? And if they click on it, do they do something or do they click back immediately? That's one thing. The other thing is trust. It comes from information systems research, that there has to be a level of trust between software vendor and the customer that enables this bidirectional communication, that customers are incentivized to share their feedback and data, so they know that by doing this, they actually improve the software. And it's easier to say that than to do it, but there has to be a level of trust in this. And that developing that trust takes time, and you can't expect it immediately.
Yes.
Franz, maybe you have something to add here?
Yes, so in practical terms, I would trace it back from the actor. So the one who's in need of the feedback, they should think about what are the feedback properties, the quality attributes that feedback should have. So how detailed should it be? How often do I want feedback, and so on? Then either finding or inventing, in some cases, the right feedback mechanism that is able to deliver that feedback. And it might be close to what you already have, but it might be something completely different. Starting from the target, which kind of feedback do you need? And then finding the right feedback mechanism, which might involve talking to people, or it might be completely automated. So the feedback mechanism can be anything, but it should be able to produce the right kind of feedback. And then you might also want to think about a second order feedback loop, to monitor your feedback mechanism. Is the feedback mechanism I invented here and set up actually doing its job? Which also is an investment, but yeah, so that's the way to go about this.
So I thank you very much for this session today, Eriks and also Franz. We are really happy to have you here. This will be also uploaded to our channels, YouTube and LinkedIn. And we will also share your information if anyone would like to ask a question or come back to you. So as a summary, we are really happy of having this session of discussion where how should we improve our work, both as a management and also as engineers. So wrapping up, Syntheria Group will be also having continuously sessions in different areas, and the next coming, I believe, will be into AI, chat GTP, where we will discuss a little bit of effectiveness in conversations, hopefully. So thank you again, everyone, and have a nice day and happy Easter for the weekend coming. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.